Good morning, everyone, and welcome to European Research Academy, the podcast, where we discuss about topics and new researches in the field of political science, Europe in general, and in the European Union. Today, we have the pleasure of hosting three amazing and very talented young researchers. We have Bart, Inan, and Ricardo, and they all come from the Göttingen University. Thank you for being here today.
Pleasure.
Great pleasure.
So in today's episode, we're going to focus on the French right-wing populist party Rassemblement National, led by Jordan Bardella, and the still French but left-wing populist party La France Insoumise, led by Mélenchon. And particularly, we're going to focus on European identity and how they construct European identity. We have chosen this topic because in the last years, we've seen a rise of right-wing parties and populist parties all over Europe, such as in Austria, we have the Freedom Party, FPE. In Italy, we have Fratelli d'Italia. And as we said, in France, we have both La France Insoumise and Rassemblement National. So I would like to start with a question for you guys, because I think the audience is very interesting in knowing why did you specifically chose this topic? Why were you interested in that? And because I think it's a very niche topic and it's not an easy one.
Okay, can go. So basically, we decided to work on this topic because, as you already said, populism is gaining traction in the last few years and is becoming more popular. And blah, blah, blah. Not only Europe, but also in America and Brazil, etc., etc. So we thought to focus on how it actually populism relates with the idea of Europe. So not only the European Union, but also the idea of European identity, how they use it and how they relate with it and how they work with it.
But why specifically France?
Well, we choose France because it's the only, or at least the biggest country in Europe with both a strong populist party on the right wing and the left wing. So this way we could study if there are differences between the two opposites of the political spectrum, and see if something changed and if they are relevant.
So you're going to make a comparison between the two.
Yes, we're going to make a comparison.
Oh, that's very interesting. And so you've talked about populism, but I think it's a very difficult topic and the audience maybe would like to understand more about it. Can you tell us what actually populism is?
Okay, populism is difficult to define, but we use it.
We're going to try.
Yes, exactly. We use it, the definition of populism as an ideology. So it's this ideology that focus on the opposition between the people and the elite, with the people that are the vast majority of the population and are pure, so they have the common will, the common sense with them, and they are entitled to actually govern, make laws, and shape the community. But in the populist view, they are oppressed by the elite that instead has no right to be in power and is imposing different values and different ideas, laws, oppressing the people for the benefit of the elite. So that's the main part, the opposition between the people and the elite.
Okay, thank you so much. Now I would like to focus on the European identity concept and Europeanness with Inan, who is the expert here. Is there such a thing as Europeanness, and how would you define European identity?
Okay. First of all, I want to share a personal experience.
Sure.
For example, if I meet a group of European people, a group of Americans, and a group of probably Southern Americans, it will be...
You mean North Americans and South Americans?
Yeah, Americans, United States.
Yeah.
From United States.
And Canada.
Yeah, of course. It wouldn't be really hard for me to define who are who. Yeah, Europeans has a specific atmosphere from their experience, the way they talk, and the way they think, and they have, in my opinion, personal opinion, they have better taste than Americans.
So you mean their
Thank you.
attitude is different?
Yeah.
Okay.
And to define Europeanness, I want to dig a little bit into the history, because European start with the Greek democracy and Roman legislation to the Christian-dominated medieval ages, and to the Renaissance, the
Period,
Renaissance period, the Reformation, and the Enlightenment. All
okay.
these
Movements.
and historic events consist of the European identity.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it makes sense because these events like happen only in Europe. I mean, they started in Europe and they didn't happen, for example, in Australia.
Yeah.
If you think about it. Okay.
And apart from that, there are also political features of Europeanness. The most important feature is, I think, Europe Union, because it's the only supranational organization in the world, and
Okay, so yeah, for sure it's part of us, European Union. What else? Tell us more. Other features, maybe.
I mean that's interesting to mention it, right? Like, because I think that's kind of what our research is about in the end. Like, how do you define this European identity? So we can make an effort here to like Yinan really like outline some really key aspects. But in the end, I think very much what we saw is that this European identity is very much open to interpretation and to construction. So, of course, like Yinan said, like, for example, you think of many things of Europe, you think of good style, for example.
A good what?
Good style. Right? So, but others maybe not, right? Maybe we won't do that. And that's, so it's open to interpretation. Well, like, what is your Europe in the end? And so what we did was really looking at, like, how do these populist parties construct their Europe? How do they see it? Because that's the thing, like, it's a construction that is, like, they can form and shape it. Like, if you say, like, Europeans have good style, you construct Europeans as having good style. Like, it's like an act. And of course, like, for us, it's just us, like, three guys, like, three researchers. But, like, for these influential politicians, it's quite something if they have a certain vision of Europe. And that's why it's relevant in the end as well. It's really tied up altogether.
I want to make a conclusion that Europeanness definitely exists, but it's constructed and, more importantly, interpreted by different ideology parties to support their ideas.
Yeah. So you guys are saying that each one of us has its own European identity and has its own vision to see Europe, right?
Yeah.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Thank you on that. And I would like to delve into the Rassemblement National, because that's our today's topic. How does Bardella or Le Pen see and construct this European identity specifically?
First thing came into my mind is the Christianity, because Le Pen mentioned a lot about Christianity in her speech.
So Europe is Christian.
Yeah, Europe to her point of view, European is and should be Christian.
So if she says that, it means that Europe is not Muslim, for example. So she's taking away, she's excluding other religions. Very populist.
Yeah, very populist view and very nationalist, for example.
Yeah, more nationalist, I think. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah.
But that's a good point. Like,
But this excluding a group is very populist.
Yes, exactly. Well, like Ricky said before, maybe you can elaborate now.
It's one of the things they do. Like, they create the pure group, the people, and everyone else. Even if you are, for example, there are the elite,
the good
but
ones.
Exactly, the good ones and the bad ones. And doesn't matter if you are really part of the elite, because maybe the elite are working for the Muslim that are moving to Europe to destroy France and Europe. So it doesn't matter. Yeah, there's part of creating exclusions and groups is actually one of the fundamental activity, you say.
Right, yeah, because if you're shaping one identity, saying like European is stylish, you're kind of excluding everyone who's not stylish, right? In the harmless
Yes.
example, but like also you say like it's Christian, like can a Muslim person then ever be truly European? I mean that.
I mean, you have Albanian or Bosnian that are Muslim.
That would be a good counter argument, but that's of course not included in these speeches.
No, of course
But
not.
anyway, like that's what you were saying, right? Like
Yeah, and
this
also another example, the Caucasian nations, for example, Armenian and Georgians, they are also Christian. Even though European Union has closer relations with Turkey, but
Which is Muslim, you're saying?
yeah, which is Muslim secular, but but also
Right.
Muslim.
And also
Yeah.
why like Armenia and Georgia consider European.
Yeah,
and
they're also
Turkey are not.
considered
Yeah.
European, but Turkey is not.
And that's-
Yeah, and like for example, Morocco was like barred from entering Europe, and of course it's also not on the continent. But I mean, it might also help in this case, or not help more so that they're Muslim. So you can see how important that is. But maybe go back to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we mentioned Christianity. Tell me other features that she focuses on.
Now-
Maybe European Union. Is she against?
Oh yeah, because she's a nationalist, so she's very against European Union, supranational organization governed by Brussels. She preferred to have a European of nations, which is
Okay.
which is consisted of different nations, separate nations from Europe in the Europe continent. For example, French, Germans, Italians. Polish and other
Okay.
nations. There should be cooperations of nations instead of
Supranational.
yeah.
one. Okay. So for her, Europe is like a Europe of nations.
Yeah,
Basically. Okay. Okay. Is there a third feature maybe to define Europeanness? How does she define it?
Last but not least is the humanism.
Period.
Yeah,
okay.
humanism period and the scientific achievements of Western Europe in the last 5 centuries probably. She really mentioned a lot about the achievements of Western Europeans.
In terms of also literature, architecture,
Yeah.
art, is it what you're saying?
Yeah, of course. And she said that France and especially France led the world for a couple of centuries, and
Sure, yeah.
France should keep it that way. Yeah.
Like continue to
Yeah,
do
continue to lead the world, be independent from the European Union, and be independent from the United States. And yeah,
that. So yeah, as you're saying that like as Europeans are led or like we have a common history of art, architecture, literature. This is what come si dice ci accomuna? This is our common feature, basically.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like a whole civilization.
Yeah,
This is what you
yeah,
often
she's-
see in the literature.
She's
Sure.
advocating for the proud of the French historical achievements, which is true, but I think it's a little bit old-fashioned to mention all the time about your historical achievements, because I mean the history has been evolving all the times. Nowadays, French probably can't match the same achievements as their ancestors. So
But does she then like create an alternative? Because she says like she only focuses on the past. She hates the EU, so her only alternative option is this Europe of the nations. So like individual nations still kind of cooperating, but
yeah.
not under Brussels, so to say. That's the only? And then I guess going back to what architecture or art or something, or is
Going
that?
back,
Well, as in like that's the high point of European civilization, right? Is
Yeah.
art and
art, literature, and
Right.
also humanism, democracy, and science.
So her future Europe is just that.
Yeah.
Like, does she give a current alternative? You're saying like in the present.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering, like, because like what picture does she paint? Is it like an inspiring future?
You can think of the Europe in the 19th, at the end of 19th century and the beginning of 20th century, before the First World War. I think that's the closest image to his to her
Right.
imaginary Europe.
So she mostly focuses on the past.
Yeah,
Past of France.
she's been deconstructing and criticizing the current government, but I don't think she posed a feasible plan to construct her dream Europe.
Okay. Got it. Okay, thank you, Inan. And what
Thank
about
you too.
Mélenchon instead? La France Insoumise, is it the same? What are the features? What are the similarities? Bart is the expert here.
Yeah, so I pretend to be.
I'm also the expert.
Yeah, and I did it together with Ricardo. We focused on La France Insoumise and Mélenchon. Well, it's actually quite interesting. So we both of us expected it to be really different, right? Because they're both literally two poles of the extreme, like the left wing, right wing, and on extreme ends of the spectrum. But actually, first thing you see is very Eurosceptical, and that's of course very similar to Le Pen. So anti-Brussels, this dominance from Brussels, kind of this dictatorship image is almost being painted.
Yeah, and I would say that not only is anti-Brussels, is nationalistic.
Right. Well, I was
the-
getting to that. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's the thing, and
go on.
so France is too powerful. That's what she says, to be kind of, or he says to kind of be being talked down to like this, and especially not only with Brussels but also with Germany, who is like in his eyes kind of this dominating power in Europe that's like forcing austerity and
Like you're saying, France is too powerful to be in the European Union.
well, to be I don't know, for Brussels to be on top of France, so to say.
Yeah, to give up their
Right,
their
the
power,
sovereignty.
and maybe also, for example, you complain about losing of the sovereignty over the follow bank, because it's part of what France has achieved and what is can actually give to the other nations to follow them, and he thinks that just not giving all these achievements and all these principles and values, not giving them away, but just giving them, not even giving them, moving France in the direction of what Brussels wants is actually a loss. A loss,
Yeah.
both for France, but also because he also has an idea of Europe, kinda. I mean, it's fading away, but
Yeah.
it's also a loss for not only for Europe, but for the
The
whole humanity.
Yeah, for
So
humanity. That's really
that's
interesting.
how much he
There's
keeps
this
in
like
high regard.
so we talked
France.
about the civilizational idea with right wing, right? Like, and there is this French tradition of mission civilisatrice, so like France like civilizing the world, especially in colonialism, and it's really still there because that's the thing. So we like, just to wrap up for this like negative part of it, right? So Europe is not the EU, and especially Germany and austerity and like focus on trade, and he's left wing, right? So he doesn't want. In that sense, he's left wing. He doesn't want like too much trade and freedom and neoliberalism. Yes. But what is Europe then? Well, it's this civilizational thing again in a way, but then focused on values like that from the Enlightenment, so to say. So freedom.
The French Revolution, liberté, égalité, fraternité.
Exactly. That keeps coming up.
And what about Christianity? Because I'm curious. Does he mention that in his speech?
Well, actually, there's one speech where he specifically addresses this, like I said, for example, this laïcité thing. So that's like, that's better. Thank you. Yeah, no, this laïcité. So that's the separation of church and state, and then you really mention like Europe is not a Christian, and then he he references implicitly Bart-Jan and Le Pen, who keep insisting.
The opposite.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean that he's against religion. He's also say that we are not Islamophobic.
Exactly.
Attacking Le Pen and blah blah.
Yeah.
Said we have to be
open, and
yes,
we're more than just a European Christian past. And also, I mean, he is in that sense very not anti-religious, but he wants a very clear separation of church and state.
Yes.
That's very French again, like that, and he comes back to the Enlightenment. on that basis. So, and that's part of that civilization. Europe under France, basically, under French ideals. A French literally says that.
That's
French
so
Europe.
that's so
Yeah, French Europe instead of German Europe. Right?
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Like he mentions this one line, for example. Like I can read this quote for you, maybe to highlight a little. Like he has this idea of, I don't want a German Europe. This is undoubtedly why I continue to prefer a French-style Europe, one based on universal social rights shared by all peoples. So.
Wow.
Yes, funny, huh? Like so, and then German Europe stands for so like trade and austerity. That is like not spending too much money, not borrowing too much money.
Like stinginess.
Yeah, and that's like this.
It's also very German.
Well, that's exactly. But it's funny that you say that. Like in the common imagination, that's very German and Nordic in general. And he is like, he is against that because he wants to have like social policies and borrow money to give to the people, like very left-wing policies. And Germany kind of stands as this like evil force as opposed to that. And France, on the other hand, is like social welfare and all these bright ideals. Liberté, égalité, fraternité, exactement.
Wow. So if I well understood, they're both very nationalistic, like both Rassemblement National and La France Insoumise. And I mean, I've thought about it, and so I took the liberty of looking for a quote.
Liberté.
Liberté. A quote by Victor Hugo, which says, "Europe cannot be calm if France is not happy." So I think it says a lot.
Yeah.
It says a lot about what you guys just said.
Yeah, no, that fits very well. You want to add anything on that? Because it's very illustrative, I think.
Yeah.
And that was very surprising.
I mean, Le Pen said it, actually.
Yeah,
Le
but
Pen said it.
Exactly. If you said that was Mélenchon,
This is really good example.
works as well.
Yeah, you wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to tell. I mean, we can do a little game almost now and like quote like Mélenchon or
You
Le
show
Pen. and you
it's
wouldn't
gonna
be-
a very difficult game.
Yeah, it is actually. We tried it like for a bit, and I couldn't distinguish them. Only because I knew like I read all the speeches from Mélenchon. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able.
Well, thank you guys. It was a very nice talk. We actually are coming to an end of our conversation. But first, we have questions probably from the audience. Is there any question?
Oh yeah, maybe.
Oh, wait, Twitter.
But
Now it's X.
There's also one in the back there. Like maybe.
Oh, okay.
We get.
Give him a mic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to read it.
Oh no. Okay.
We cannot
Now
hear
we'll-
you.
we'll-
Sorry.
We'll take from okay. So we don't have a mic at this point, so we'll take it from X. But maybe later we can. Thanks for the.
Actually, I recommend you to subscribe to our social media pages because we're very active on that. So
What's
Make
the
sure to
ID?
follow us.
Can you repeat it so I can follow it?
we have Instagram, we have Facebook, and this is X.
Yeah, but the nickname.
The nickname is European Research Academy, the podcast.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So from Europe.lover01, very European enthusiast, he's asking, what do you think about the future of French populism? Where is it gonna head in the next years? That's a very difficult question. I hand it in to you.
You wanna go?
Okay. Well, I mean, Le Pen has always been against the United States influence on France and Europe, so it might be a good chance for her to promote her ideas. Because
You mean after Trump's election?
yeah, after Trump's election,
okay,
because
okay,
Trump has always been threatening to withdraw from NATO, to urge the other NATO members to spend more money on military expenditure. Yeah. But interestingly, Trump and
So this would benefit French populism, you're saying?
yeah, French populist party, because it's your good chance to say, you see, the United States, they want to abandon us, so let's be unite together around our strong party, the Rassemblement National, and create our own France without help of the United States. Let's
Okay.
defend ourselves, and yeah.
So this is gonna strengthen the party, you mean?
Yeah, in this regard, yes. But also, it might encourage the French nationalists to rise. Yeah, because I think it's rising it's a rising the in a global context. The right wing nationalists are rising in recent years.
Yeah, but then you would say maybe like there's like this coalition between maybe populists in the US, let's say Trump and Le Pen, for example. Do you see that is she really just negative against Trump? She's also sort of like this positive sometimes, right? Like because at least ideologically they line up, even though from France traditionally there's this anti-American sentiment. So maybe it's like it's a bit unclear what's going to happen there, I suppose.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuances between either the personal relation between Trump and Le Pen, and also the interests of their party.
Yeah, so I guess it kind of depends on how this is gonna develop, like how Trump is gonna behave against France, how his position is gonna be, how he's gonna position himself. And maybe also, because I'm no expert on right wing, maybe with the war in Ukraine or something, maybe does that have an impact on the right wing populists in France? Because Le Pen was a supporter, or at least was, let's say,
for Trump, for Putin.
Yeah, she wasn't too negative about him. Let's put it like that.
Yeah,
she had some.
Very interestingly, she had a lot of personal. She had meetings with Putin's.
Personal.
Official, official meetings with Putin 2 years ago.
On the long table, like.
And even though
they had a smaller table, so close.
Good idea. Maybe you can think about that. And even though she criticized Putin for his invasion in Ukraine, but she also said that we should include Russia into the European system and collaborate with Putin after the war. Yes.
Ricardo, I'm interested in your opinion.
My opinion, I cannot say a lot about Le Pen. I mean, I
just in general.
I trust Sinan, but I think that actually, from the point of view of Mélenchon, we can kind of say something similar. Like he's really against NATO and the US. I think he can utilize this opportunity to say that now is the opportunity to get free, to actually, since before we didn't have the opportunity to create, because I didn't mention before, but he actually mentioned this idea of creating a non-aligned France, so a third pole.
This is kind of key, yeah.
A third pole in the global scenario. I mean, third pole? Yeah, we have a third pole.
Another pole.
Another pole in this global scenario. And but of course, US influence is still there, but if it's actually fading, as Trump is threatening to leave NATO and blah blah blah, I think it can be an opportunity to say it's time to get free. It's time to create our pole, to create our France, and then put in action all the things that you said, like the rest of peoples, because peoples, not nations, can follow our ideal. We can create this Europe of people, even if this idea is not really utilized more.
So you're kind of positive about it?
No, because I think that's really bad for the European Union.
Positive for Mélenchon. It's going to be positive for
I think
his
it's
party.
An opportunity for him, but a real threat for the European Union, because Mélenchon has two plans, right? We mentioned in our paper, like he has plan A to reform the Europe, or to plan B to leave Europe and see if someone follows us and we can create our new thing that basically is French.
Like isolating himself.
Not really isolating himself, but there's France, and if you want to follow us, you can follow us. Otherwise, you're going to be isolated. But
yeah, but he also kind of convinced that France is strong enough to stand by itself.
Yes, of course.
So we don't need the EU.
Exactly.
If they don't agree with us and they're going to form this social Europe of the peoples against like the nationalist version.
Very similar to what Le Pen says.
Yeah, but more focused on the people instead of the states.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nation state is kind of blasé. That's like past.
Yeah, there's not this strong focus on nations, on identity. Except for maybe for French identity.
But can I get to this point of like the strength of like French populism in the coming years? I think it really depends on, especially since we want to focus on this EU concept. Like you can say a lot of things like inflations and I think that's more important, honestly. But like focuses on the EU itself. I think it a lot depends on the effectiveness of the EU because
Of the what?
of EU itself. Because if Trump is going to withdraw, then it's going to be a lot of pressure on from NATO, for example, and he's going to not withdraw in general, like sit on his island and isolationist America, isolationist US. Then more comes down on the EU, so it could become more relevant. And if it handles that well, it can like show how important it is for the Europeans. And then it becomes harder for Mélenchon to say like, or Le Pen for that matter, like let's withdraw from the EU, because then French people are also hopefully potentially gonna realize like, but without the Europe, what else is there? There's no NATO, there's no US to cover under. France is strong, yes, but is it strong enough to be on its own? I mean, that's the story they want to tell us, but right? Like that would be, so if Europe shows how important it can be for French people, which it has been trying to do, of course, for decades, so it's questionable if that's going to happen.
Yeah, but he has to be done well, as you said, because
right.
Otherwise it's going to be the exact opposite effect. Like
yeah, and that's the thing. So I think there's also a burden.
They're being more authoritarian. They're pushing more for European, for the EU is pushing more in this
like
direction. So
yeah, that's the thing. So they have to
more,
sell it really well, and therefore it's also important to not just say like we want money to build a European army, and that's how we're gonna show our effectiveness, but also very much look at inflation and the concerns for the everyday French people and also the farmers, for example, which are not notoriously influential in France. So yeah.
So I'm sorry to stop you guys, to interrupt you, but we're running out of time. I hope that our the Europe.lover 01 is happy with this very elaborate.
We can go on.
Very elaborated answer. And I want to thank you guys, thank you researchers for having given us your contribution and efforts.
Thank you for
this research.
Yeah. Thank you for hosting.
It was a pleasure. And to you, audience, remember not to skip next week's episode, because we're going to have 3 amazing guests, which are Jeff Stone, Arwed Rutke, and Lars Klein. Do you guys know them?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
They're very famous.
Wow, okay. They are indeed. And next week's episode is going to be on Hegelian Aufhebung. So that's the topic we're going to cover, and it's going to
be there.
Yeah, you guys have to. You're going to be in the audience.
Can you
absolutely.
get a ticket for the audience?
Sure. It's a very fascinating topic. And that's it. Thank you again for listening to us, and have a great day.
Thank you.